All right, so today we're going to talk about the second house in astrology. What does it mean on that fundamental level? This is both for natal chart analysis as well as for transit if you've got any planets transiting through your second house. So yesterday we talked about the first house, which was the beginning of the cycle or the beginning of the journey or of life in and of itself. So now we come into the next house, the second. This is essentially when, if you take the analogy of the journey, when we start to become aware of what we value, because the first house is what we were capable of, right? And it's really that reflection of self versus the external environment. Here we really start to become aware of, okay, what is it that we actually enjoy? What is it that we actually value? And how can we actualize these things so we do have more security in our journey or in our life? And that's essentially what the second house represents. It's our values, the things that we enjoy, and this can be, it's usually material, but it can be all kinds of values, especially earthly kinds of values, because it's associated with Earth as well, and associated with Taurus, as you can imagine, the bull. So, but in terms of our values, very much about, more of the external or material values, but our personal relationship with them, it's a very personal part of the chart. In fact, it's the left side, so it's the personal side, and it's the bottom, which is the intrinsic values. So in many ways, it's our personal values part of the chart. And again, the houses is the area of life. So if you want more information in terms of like your finances, your material security, the things you value in life, you'll essentially look at the second house to see if you've got any planets there, which will then which will give you more of the experiences that take place in that area, as well as the sign characteristics associated with it. So in terms of planets, sometimes you will, sometimes you won't have planets in that particular house, but you'll always have at least one sign in that house. Of course, the cusp sign, I believe, is the most important, but you also want to look at how much space do the other signs take up. If one particular sign takes up a huge amount of space in that second house, that sign would be, very important. And essentially what you're reading is you're reading that the sign is the characteristics that are associated with that area of life. So the area of life that has to do with essentially your personal values. So the second house can be read a little bit more than this, because if you think about, once you understand your personal values, okay, then it starts to become a matter of, are we able to rely on ourselves? The second house is very much about standing on our own 2 feet. It's very much about self-reliance. And it's through that self-reliance that we understand more about our sense of self-worth. So it's not so much confidence like the first house, but here it's more like self-esteem in the sense of, are we capable of actually achieving our values in life, right? And that's essentially what it represents. So you can see that. You can see also the financial material aspects of the second house. You can see your natural talents and your natural abilities, which is a big part of that second house as well. Again, coming from the earthly side of things, of what you're just starting to develop, but oftentimes you develop at a very young age. All right, so that's the attributes, that's the meanings. We talked about the hemispheres. Now, it's also a succedent house, which is a unique type of house. Again, we're talking about the different parts of the chart. So succedent are 2nd and 8th, as well as your 5th and your 11th. So these are essentially the middle parts of the chart, if you will. And they have to do with what we value, okay, generally speaking, and what we need to have security. Okay, so for example, we have to have everything good on the financial or material side of things to really have security. But for example, Scorpio, Scorpio is, we have to have deep connections in order for us to have security in, say, our relationships or with our work or whatever it might be. So the key with all these is really, once we have established these houses, we do have that sense of security, and the other areas of our life become much more secure. So in many ways, it's what we're striving for, what we're achieving for, but primarily so that we can have that security in our life. So that's a big part of the second house too. It's very much about that, particularly material security. Now, the 2nd and 8th axes is very important in astrology because sometimes we do need to balance the second house. If there's too much energy in the second house or not enough, then it can tend to imbalance the energy. So here, the 8th house is about non-attachment. So it's important to have non-attachment to help balance out the second house. It's important to see what our true values are, our true meaning behind those material values. In other words, what are the finances actually providing, or that material asset or that material thing? What is it that we're actually connected to, right? And looking at it on that deeper level really balances out, as well as the self-reliant aspect of Taurus can really benefit from healthy codependency on others. That's another way of helping balance that out by looking at the 8th house and bringing in those 8th house energies. So that's the second house in a nutshell. Essentially, planets, and you want to look at the signs. So the planets will be the experiences in that area of life. The signs will be the characteristics and way that area expresses itself. And then if you want more information, you can look at the second house ruler, which will be the ruler of the second house cusp. So I'll put that PDF down below showing the rulership, so you can look at where that planet's placed. You want to see which house that planet's in, what sign that planet's in. It's going to give you more information on perhaps the material or values of your life. And you can also look at Venus in the chart if you want more information on your finances or your values in general. The placement of Venus, she's naturally a significator of that second house for everybody. So looking at her house position and sign position. All right, so I hope this helped. If you guys have any questions, please do let me know, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow for the third house. Take care.